In this chapter, we will focus on using JDBC authentication within Spring Security. We know that we can store our users and their authorities within a database. The JDBC authentication piece of Spring Security says that if we adhere to some opinionated views about how we should store those authorities and those users, we can then subscribe to a number of features provided by the Spring Security Framework that really improve how we manage users and their authorities via JDBC. So our first objective is to understand the out-of-the-box features that Spring Security is going to provide for us to manage our users and their authorities within a database using JDBC. So we're going to be looking at a JDBC user service, and that user service is going to be connecting to the tables within our database. And Spring Security is going to provide some default user schemas that we adhere to. And because we follow those default schemas that Spring Security provides for managing our users, our groups, and our authorities, we can then leverage these out-of-the-box features and very quickly set up some of the security features within Spring MVC. Another interesting item that we're going to look at is different forms of storing our users and their authorities. Right now, we've primarily been looking at users from the view that we have a user and then they have a list of authorities. Well, in group-based access control, we actually start out with a group and then we assign authorities to that group. Once that group has authorities, we then associate users with that group. Now, this provides us with a more flexible and robust way to manage our users and their permissions. Finally, in this chapter, we will learn to securely store passwords within our database. So one of the big problems out there is that some sites are storing user credentials in plain text. If they store credentials in plain text, an attacker can get those credentials and then try them against other sites and services that I may use. This has become increasingly common where we enter the scenario where we're providing one site for our credentials on another site. So maybe we want two sites to interact, and we provide site A with our credentials for site B so they can perform some sort of interaction on our behalf. Well, if site A is storing our credentials in plain text, that's an issue because they're making us vulnerable, compromising our online identity. So we're going to learn how to encode the passwords we store and take a look at an even more secure approach, encoding and salting the passwords we store for our users so that we can ensure that their credentials are safe within the sites we develop.